entertaining the presentation tonight about our recruiting. This is just a little bit of an update. A little unusual. Normally we kind of give you an update in the fall after we've completed things, but we just kind of felt maybe it was a good idea to update you a little more frequently. So first of all, who's really responsible for recruiting? What does our team look like for recruiting? And really it's a combination. It's people in the personnel office. Our principals are also highly involved in the whole recruiting process, and they're involved in kind of what I call our pre-employment activities, where we're out going to recruiting fairs, where we're doing interviews, that type of stuff, and teachers we have involved. We actually, and I didn't bring them in tonight, but we've updated our display boards, and one of our teachers who's got some background with graphic design did that for us. Worked pretty extensively on that. We've had people prepare presentations, and also our students, because the next presentation that I'll share that we used at our booth was developed by students. So where are we right now in terms of our needs and our efforts? Right now we have right at 50 positions that are currently open. Now that doesn't count any administrative openings, and that doesn't count RCDC. The board approved an administrative resignation tonight, so we have one administrative opening that's out there right now. RCDC has 12 positions. They're kind of expanding their area. 7 of those are in liberal, and will be based out of liberal. But those I'm not counting in the 50. 6 of those 50 that we do have are due to licensure. Teachers had a problem obtaining their license for next year. Lots of times that's due to maybe a praxis test that they haven't gotten taken. So we're still optimistic that they'll get those issues resolved, and we'll be able to rehire hopefully most of those people, if not all of them, and back into their position. But we can't hire them until we know they're going to have a license. Trying to teach me what to do here, and I'm not smart enough to do it. To give you a little bit of an idea, from the 1st of January until the current date, last year we had 179 applications that had been submitted. This year, to the same date, we have 173. So we're pretty much on kind of on our normal pace there. By the end of 2013, from January 1 until the end of December, we ended up with 569 certified applications. So we're kind of right here at the beginning of our process, and things will continue to get pretty busy with this through the summer. I will tell you though, we actually have, even though maybe our number of applications aren't showing it, I think we are a little bit more, we've been a little more aggressive, and we've tried to get a little bit of a quicker start. We've already filled 14 positions this year, and those are out-of-district candidates, and we have 2 candidates who are retirees, Capers retirees, who want to come back into the district and work. So those are generally pretty easy. Those are kind of 2 more technically, if there was a position open, but we hired those people right back into those roles. We've done 93 first interviews, primarily those occurred through Skype, and I think we're somewhere in the neighborhood of about 20 secondary interviews. We do a lot of recruiting fairs. In Kansas this year we did 6. We did K-State, KU, Pittsburgh State, Fort Hays, actually 7, Emporia, Washburn, and then there's one. It's in the central part of the state. That's a lot of the smaller colleges that they convene together to, and we hit that one. We always try to recruit pretty heavily in Kansas. We didn't go to Wichita State this year because last year we had real poor results there. We just didn't have a lot of candidates. So what's new? Well, we've increased our number of fairs total that we go to from 18 to 29. And we've done that because we anticipated that the needs are are getting greater, and the competition is getting higher to fill those positions. We went to Utah, where we saw 42 candidates at 2 different fairs. We went to Alabama this year, where we saw 26 candidates at 2 different fairs. And we went to Oklahoma, where we saw 14 candidates at 3 different fairs. Those are 3 states we haven't went to for some period of time, but because I think the market's getting a little tougher, we are trying to hit more of those. And I think you can see 14 candidates at 3 fairs is not something that we felt was very productive, but that's what we had. And I will tell you, when our recruiters go out to fairs, we don't sit behind a table waiting for people to come to us. We're up in the aisles, we're tracking people down. You know, a lot of times if you're at a Colorado fair, the Colorado districts have people lined up to interview for a local district. Well, those people at the end of the line are just kind of wasting their time. So we'll go talk to them at the end of those lines if we're not busy at our booth. So this isn't a matter of our people at those fairs are not doing all they can do. We are very aggressive when we go to these. I think I mentioned we've started a little earlier in terms of our interviewing, and the fact that we've already got 14 at this point is good progress for us. We've updated our recruiting materials, and Gloria was right. This brochure was originally developed, I think Shelley did that with a group from Salina, and we found that it was getting a little bit dated. We didn't have anything in there about the new high school. Some of the staff members that were quoted and listed in the puzzle pieces had left our district. So this past fall, we updated the brochure to make sure that we reflected some things that are a little bit different. Some things didn't change a whole lot, but some things changed quite a bit. And I always tell people, it's kind of neat, and we still get lots of really great comments on that brochure. But when you're looking at those puzzle pieces and people see our teachers, we see teachers that have lived their whole life in Kansas, and we see teachers who come from all over the country. We see teachers who have been teaching for 30 years, and we see teachers who have only been teaching for a year or 2. And really one of the selling points for us as we're out there is what a welcoming community and school district Garden City really is, and we see that in the nature of our staff, and a lot of times our team that's there recruiting. We had 5 of us in Michigan last week, week before last, I guess now, and ranged anywhere from 26 years in the district to 2, and none of us are Garden City natives. You know, we would love to hire all of our candidates from Southwest Kansas, from Garden City, or even just from Kansas. But as I'm going to share with you here in a minute, the reality of that is, folks, that just isn't going to happen. There's just not the number of candidates, there's not the number of people, of educators that are available in these areas. So when necessary, we do look outside. The other thing that is kind of interesting, we're seeing a significant decrease in the number of candidates that are attending these fairs. The University of Northern Colorado Fair is a Thursday-Friday fair. So Brad Springston and I attended that fair, and we had a reasonable day the first day. Didn't think it was probably quite what we'd seen in the past. Friday morning, the Greeley paper reported that they normally sell 1,000 admissions to candidates a year to the fair. This year they only sold 700. They also reported that the number of school districts at the fair was up. So we're seeing fewer candidates, we're seeing more competition for those candidates. Fort Hays, we sent a recruiter to Fort Hays. I didn't go to that one. They reported there were 20 candidates at the entire fair. Okay, I mean, I'm not happy if I go to a fair and I don't get 25 resumes from the fair. If we don't come back with 25 contacts, I'm not, there were 20, we got 5 out of 20. So, you know, 25% of the candidates, that's pretty darn good. If Brad and I would have got 25% of 700, I'd have felt wonderful. But when we're talking about 5 Western Kansas graduates, I mean, that's that's not gonna take care of the vacancies that they have in Hayes and the communities around Hayes. So, Central Michigan this year, their staff told us that their enrollment in their college education is down 52%. And in terms of that Michigan swing, we normally go to 4 fairs. We go to Eastern Michigan, Central Michigan, Western Michigan, and Michigan State. We've never had a lot of luck at the University of Michigan at Ann Arbor. Last year we went to those 4, and we came back with over 250 resumes, 250 candidates. This year we went ahead and went to Ann Arbor, thinking it's probably been 5 years since we've been there, thinking it was time to give it a try. We only got 10 resumes there. And for the entire week with all 5, we got 163. So down 4 fairs, 250, 5 fairs, 163. So I think we're seeing that trend everywhere we go, not just in-state, but we're also seeing that out-of-state. Another thing that, when I go to those fairs, I kind of use that as an opportunity to visit other districts' tables and kind of see what they're doing. And I always like to check what, in terms of salary and benefits, what they're doing for their employees in their districts. And these are just some kind of anecdotal observations. I would say that our salary and benefits is competitive, but we're starting to slip. And some examples of that, Wyoming districts, we don't even go to Wyoming's fair anymore because, quite frankly, when they sit up across the aisle from us at a fair, it's kind of hard to get people to look at our booth. This year we had I think it was Afton was the community, $50,000 base and a $23,000 benefit package was their starting salary. And of course, they know that's attractive, so that's, all over their stuff. Alabama, we hired 5 excellent teachers from Alabama this past year, just kind of walked into them during the summer. And we'd never recruited in Alabama before. So we thought that might be something we needed to do. And we kind of thought Alabama hasn't done great in terms of education spending since the recession of 2008. And I was surprised. Many of their districts that I stopped at, their base salary was at $38,000 or above, which is a little better than ours, but not really what I expected. Texas, a lot of Texas districts, and I meant to get Dumas's specific one, but many of those their base salaries start out at $45,000 or higher. And if you get in the metropolitan areas, what I hear from the Texas districts is if they want to compete with the Dallas and the Fort Worth, they have to pay that or they can't compete with them. So even up into places in the Panhandle, it makes that. Colorado, Michigan, Utah, I think there we would see districts where we were higher, and we'd see a few where we were lower. So I think we were pretty competitive in terms of where we were at with places from with districts from those states. Just a little more information for you. Elementary right now we have 11 vacancies. Middle school we have 12, or middle and intermediate we have 12. High school we have 9. At our alternative education center we have 1. And special ed, including our early childhood, we have 16. So our SPED vacancies are probably a little higher than what we've seen in the past, and we've had several of our special education teachers who have actually stayed in the district but transferred into open regular education positions this year. And I don't know if that's just a coincidence or if that means anything yet or not, but that's the kind of stuff that we kind of look at and monitor. So that's a whirlwind tour of recruiting. We're really kind of kicked into full speed right now and going, and just hired a math teacher about 10 minutes before the board meeting, so it's been a glorious day. Questions?
Well, thanks for what you're doing. It's an important part of the future of our district, so choose wisely.
We really have a great process of how we
Good.
hire, and works pretty well, yes, sir.
A couple of questions. First of all, the governor just signed that bill. That's not really factoring into this whole, there's gonna be some things to consider there from a recruiting standpoint, but, well, I guess I'll just ask it this way. Steve, what do you think is the greatest opportunity we have to remain competitive as far as making some adjustments to what we offer? I mean, we're close on what we offer as far as base salary, that kind of thing. But when you use the example of Wyoming, that's a pretty big difference. And is the difference in benefits package or?
Well, I think there's gonna be places like Wyoming, because of the revenue that's available to their schools, that I'm not.
Yeah, oil and gas, that kind of thing.
Unrealistic, we're never gonna be at that level, but I think it's important that we don't fall too far behind, and I think it's important that we remain competitive, because we are attractive, and when we go to these fairs, we're not only selling our school district, which folks is easy to do because there's so many great things going on, and the people we take to these events are really proud of our district, okay? But it's our community. And I truly think that we have a lot to offer, I think, in terms of our community in Southwest Kansas. Our biggest challenge, honestly, is our geography. And that's beyond everybody's control. We have a lot of people that they'll walk by our table and say, oh, Kansas, and they'll walk by. Well, the next time they're walking by, we grab them and say, well, have you ever thought of Kansas? Let me tell you about it. Well, when they start to look, I can't tell you how many people the elephant picture catches their attention. They're going, no kidding, you got an elephant in Southwest Kansas. Well, yeah, we got more than an elephant. You know, we got giraffes and tigers and all kinds. But really changing their perception and just getting them to consider. Sometimes it's moving that far away from home. Sometimes it's, hey, one of my fears when I came here, I'll lay it out there, tornadoes. Man, where I grew up, we didn't have them. And as a matter of fact, when I was in the position, a lot of these college grads, people would ask me, what are you gonna do next year? Where are you gonna go? And my pat answer was, well, I don't know yet, but I know it's not gonna be Alaska, because I'm not into cold, and it's not gonna be Kansas. Well, I've been in Kansas once in my life, driven through the state, but I associated it with tornadoes, and I didn't do tornadoes. I wasn't interested in seeing a tornado or being near one. Well, you know, after coming out here, I found out, hey, that's really probably not a big thing to be concerned about. Although I still am generally in my basement when it's not Leon Liebel anymore, but when the weather guy is up there going, there's a tornado in your area. So I think a lot of it is just changing that perception, and knowing that you're in a supportive community, and not just in terms of supportive of schools, but we're a progressive place. And, you know, certainly all the economic development in our community is beneficial. One of the things that came up really late that we didn't do, that we will do in the future, we need to recruit, we need to work with our economic development people, because a lot of times we have spouses who are looking for jobs, and if we can have some connections and some information to share, obviously if they're both educators, then we can work totally with that group. But if it's, you know, somebody needs a job in manufacturing or in retail, or, you know, their husband's an electrician, and we don't, we offer to do what we can, but I think we can do more to have information ready to go, and maybe work with our Eco-Devo people to point to it, and I think that'll be beneficial for our industries and the community as well.
To dovetail on his question, your statement, what is some of the feedback of people that were hired? What is attracting them?
Well, I think a job, number one. A lot of our folks are people who know they're not going to have an opportunity. We hire a lot of young folks, and they're not going to have an opportunity in their local area, whether that's Michigan. But we're starting to see that economy change a little bit. Then I think it's I think it's the quality of the people, a lot of word of mouth. We get a lot of people that tell us, oh, matter of fact, Brad Springston was in my office 15 minutes before the board meeting, and he interviewed an art candidate on a Skype today who knows one of the teachers in his building. So that word of mouth, that we are a supportive district, that we do provide the resources, the materials, the great environment, that Western Kansas is an okay place, the community's a good place. So I think that word of mouth is helpful for us too, Alex. And I don't know that I could say that it's any one thing. I really think it's all of those things combined. And, you know, at the risk, I don't want to alienate our neighbors, but I think a large district, I think, is a lot of times appealing to people because they have opportunities. Hey, if I'm a fifth grade teacher this year, but I really think I want to try working with first graders, then probably a first grade job's going to open up, and I'll have an opportunity to give that a shot in the future if I really want to do that. When I compare us with our neighbors in Liberal and Dodge, I think, well, there's no question which community I'd rather live in. I just think our community has a lot to offer, so.
Are there other Kansas schools at these fairs when you guys go to?
You know, there are some. We see Wichita occasionally. Of course, the Kansas fairs, yes. But when we're going out of state, we'll see Wichita, Liberal, Great Bend we saw this year, Goddard. There was a special ed co-op out of Goddard that we see. So the Alabama fairs, we didn't see anybody there. That's, we're staking our claim to Alabama. But the Michigan, I think we were one of the first districts going up there, and now we're seeing more Kansas schools. And this is the first time I've seen Great Bend out there.
Did you have to take a translator to Alabama?
No, we just had to listen very carefully.
Oh, no, she didn't call, so
I really like that component that you talked about with working with the Economic Development Council or other organizations as well, because I mean, I know for another anecdote for you, you know, when a doctor came into town a few years ago, they, of course, they're able to wine and dine like we can't, but spouse met up with an attorney during that dinner who was able to put in contact with the county attorney's office, and that husband then had a job on the way out. And I can see it working both ways for us, helping the spouse out, and then maybe that spouse is a teacher, and trying to work that angle as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And we have a success story like that this year with the county attorney's office. So, but the more systematic we can get in doing that, I think is going to be good for everybody.
Thanks for what you're doing.
You bet.